Hi everyone, welcome to Catch Your Breath 60 on Facebook Live. In this video, we're going to talk about kitchen tips and tricks for those that have chronic illnesses and how we're going to make it easier for us to get those needed nutrients that we so desperately need. Remember that a lot of the meds that we take will strip our body of needed nutrients, and it's up to us to replace those nutrients that the medications and the chronic illness itself takes away from us. So some of the things that we are that our body gets depleted in is potassium, magnesium, and sodium. These are one of the three most important minerals that we can have in our body when we have things like COPD and chronic illness. Hi, Dawn, and thank you for joining us today. So today we're going to talk about some tools. Hi, Carol. Some baking and cooking, some batch cooking things, some 3-ingredient recipes, and some of the things that we can use, when we are chronically ill to get the proper things into our kitchen that we need to get and to stop ordering that fast food. If you don't know me, my name is Barbara Moore. And I have COPD. I was diagnosed in 2015, and I have begun to create a community where we can help each other by vocalizing and peer support groups. So I am very, very happy to have you here today. Can you tell me where you are, where you're watching from? Last week we had somebody here who was from Australia, as far away as Australia. I am in southern Ontario, Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and that's the southern part of Ontario. So if we have people from the eastern part of Canada, you're going to be a couple of hours off of us, and people from California are having their lunch right now. So right now it is 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So Ohio, oh, here's somebody from Ontario. Interesting. I have a hard time getting Canadians to come on here. We have an awful lot of American followers, and I really appreciate that. And while we're on the point of Americans, I hope everybody had a good long weekend and that used Memorial Day to the best of its ability. I want to thank all U.S. soldiers who have contributed to services. You save us all, and I really appreciate that. So there's somebody from New York. Hi, Sandra. Sandra is from California. So let's talk about some kitchen tips and tricks. One of the first things that I got when I got married was a slow cooker. And I think most people who are my age probably have used or have a slow cooker in their home right now. I know I am on my third slow cooker. There's somebody from New Brunswick. That's great. So I'm on my third slow cooker. And my slow cooker was a very, very small one when I first got married because, there was only the two of us. But that quickly changed, and I needed the larger slow cooker because as my family started to expand, we needed more and more food. And because I have two boys, there you are from Australia, welcome. I have two boys who are really big eaters, and so we always needed to have leftovers and lots. Now we've kind of gone from the great big slow cooker back down to the smaller slow cooker. So I think I'm on my third slow cooker. Something that I've never, ever, ever begrudged paying the money for because I thought they were always fabulous. And what I like to do with my slow cooker is I like to set it up the night before. So if I am ambitious after supper, hi Susan, if I'm ambitious enough after supper, I will just get up from the table and start chopping vegetables and cutting up the meat for the next day. Now, some of the recipes that we follow for slow cookers, the meat has to be cooked before, but most of them, the meat can actually go in raw. So my trick is to have the slow cooker set up after supper, put it in the fridge, take it out in the morning, and I can kind of walk around with my nose up in the air saying supper's ready and there'll be no fast food in my house tonight. And I absolutely love that. It gives me such a sense of satisfaction to know that I've gotten all the nutrients, all the fresh vegetables, right? And it's a great thing to use up your vegetables. You can usually combine the meat and the vegetables together with a little bit of seasoning and sauces, and it's absolutely fabulous. I do soups all winter in my crock pot, and I try various different soups in my crock pot. I don't like the soup where the chicken has to be cooked with the soup. I like the chicken cooked beforehand and put in cooked. And the reason why is because it gets a little bit greasy. The soup gets a little bit greasy. And I don't need that extra, kind of bloat factor with the grease. So my crock pot is absolutely fabulous. And I probably use it 3 times a week. It's always out. And mine has a probe on it. So depending on what kind of slow cooker you get, what size you get, they're all very, very different. And some are, they pack up to go with, and I love those ones. But mine has a probe on it, and so I can put it in and cook the meat to the temperature that I like it. My husband tends to like it a little bit more well done than most people do, so we kind of pacify him and satisfy him all the time, right? Because you know how it is with guys. The second thing that I wanted to talk about today was an Instapot. So how many of you use an Instapot? And I'm not talking about the kind that you smoke. I'm talking about an Instapot. And I know that a ton of you use it. So how many of you do that? Oh, that's a great idea, Carol. Use cooking your chicken ahead of time, shredding it and freezing it for soups, or do you ever have like just a chicken salad? You can just chop it up, add a little bit of mayonnaise, a little bit of chopped celery, or whatever you like in your salads. I like it as a chicken salad. I love a good chicken salad sandwich, eh? So does anybody have an Instapot? Yeah, it's on my list too. So I haven't used an Instapot, but here's what I've done a bit of research on them. And so does anybody, or has anybody in the past used a pressure cooker? Because my mother used to have a pressure cooker, and when I was a kid, everybody used a pressure cooker. You had to kind of know how to use them, because you could actually blow your head off if you didn't. Oh, that's too bad, Karen. That's too bad. You should take it off of her and start using it, because you'd actually really like it and probably appreciate it a lot more than she would. Most people don't get the concept of a pressure cooker, and a pressure cooker is this. It's a cast iron like pot. Like, it's not really cast iron, but it's really, really thick like that, right? And you put the lid on it, and you have this little air hole that comes out, and there's a thing that goes on top of it, and it wiggles back and forth as the pressure is building up inside. So pressure cookers scare the crap out of me. But I used to use one for years because that's what my mother had. And if you take the top off too soon, before the pressure has released, all your food will land on the ceiling, I tell you the truth. But I think that this Instapot is a better version of a pressure cooker. So if anybody knows about the pressure cooker, yeah, a bunch of grandparents, right? I know our grandparents used them all the time, and I know my mother used them, and I've never had one. Mine is downstairs in the storage room, and it's probably going to the dump next week. So, but I think that the Instapot is something like that, and it cooks food a lot faster, I think, than the slow cooker. Does anybody have, if nobody uses it, I can't believe nobody uses it. It's excellent because it retains a lot of the nutrients, right? And it cooks the food really, really fast. But it does it under pressure. I want an air fryer too. Now these gadgets have actually stayed very, very high priced in the market. They actually haven't come down. And what I'm assuming is that the reason why they haven't come down is because they're really, really good, right? Yeah, so a lot of meats, they really retain their nutrients and their vitamins and so forth. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was a steamer. Now, does anybody use a steamer? Like steamers are not just for rice anymore. Who knew? Steamers are more for, some of the ones that I saw when I was doing the research for this today was the double steamers, where you have your vegetables on the top and your meats closer to the bottom, where they'll cook evenly. Carol, I want somebody to cook for me too, so I'll tell you a little story. My daughter and son-in-law lived with us for 3 years, and my daughter is a gourmet cook. I swear to God, she is a gourmet cook. And all the time that I was sick, so from about 2014 to 2017, she cooked every night for us. And she cooked for a family of 7. There was 7 of us in the house at the time. And every night there would be a gourmet meal. Like, she was absolutely fabulous. And then she left. And I looking around saying, I don't cook. I don't want to cook. I don't like cooking. I hate the kitchen being a mess. It drives me absolutely out of my mind, and I would do almost anything rather than cook. I would eat my dinner over the sink rather than mess up a plate and have to wash it, right? So I'm kind of hearing you, but the problem with if we don't have somebody who will cook for us, when I went in the hospital the first time, the nurses used to call me Oprah because they would bring me down these gourmet meals every night, and everybody would be saying, "Where did she get that from? Where did she get that from?" And I said, "Oh, I have a cook at home." So they called me Oprah. So, if you don't have your daughter to cook for you, and you don't have somebody who will do that for you every night, we have to look for easier ways to get this done. So, does anybody do batch cooking? Does anybody cook like a lot of one meal? So we used to get, a great big roast of beef, and when the kids were small and the family was going and everything, right? We would use that for one Sunday night. It would be gone. But now we buy this roast and we can actually cut it in 3. So what we do is we cook it, and we cook it so we cook it on a Sunday afternoon, nice and slow. Sometimes I put it in the oven at 150 or 200 at about 5 o'clock in the morning. And then I go back to bed. And so, you can leave it to slow cook for the entire day and then cut it into 3. So we'll have one meal that day. Another half of it will go in the freezer for another day. And another third of it will go into things like soups or sandwiches or anything that you can think of. Sometimes we have hot beef sandwiches or whatever, right? And I understand that a lot of people like the food fresh. I get it. But sometimes, when you have chronic illness, it's not possible to have your food fresh. Sometimes we just don't feel it. And on those days, how do we get the nutritions that we need when we just cannot, we cannot have the energy that day to cook a good meal? There's not a lot of us that are living with family like I am, and a lot of people who have chronic illness live on their own. So sometimes you just wake up and you can't tell from day to day how you're going to feel. And so you wake up, and if you have something in the freezer, then that's one less thing that you have to worry about on those days when you're just exhausted and so tired. One of the other things that I do is I buy a lot of frozen vegetables. So I always have frozen vegetables in my freezer. And I've read a couple of articles on it, and they said, the way that frozen vegetables are processed these days, you don't really lose a lot of the nutrients, the original nutrients in the frozen vegetables. And so if that's the only way that you can get vegetables in, let's do it. Let's get those frozen vegetables and let's figure out how we can use them. When I make my chicken pies, and chicken pies are a lot of work. They're a lot of, there's a lot of, it's a long process. You have to cook the chicken, and then you have to cook the potatoes, and then you have to pre-cook the carrots, and then you put it all together, and you have to make your roux, and then you have to do your pie, your pastry and everything, right? So it's a lot, right? And so if I can cut corners and do peas and carrots that are already cooked or that are frozen. I absolutely love it. I don't have a problem with it, right? Yeah, I use frozen vegetables, and I can steam them. Steaming frozen vegetables is fabulous, right? So you're just using a little bit of water. You're keeping most of the nutrients. And if you're really concerned about the nutrients, you can actually keep that water and use it for cooking or for coffee or something later, right? And now you've got all the nutrients. You've trapped them all. So let me ask you, what are some of the things that you use in the kitchen that saves you some of your energy? Some of the things that that we should have in the kitchen to save our energy. The first thing that we should have before we even get started with preparing meals is a stool in the kitchen. We should always have a stool we can sit so that you can stir and rest and stir and rest. And trying to do things all at once and getting everything done in one deal is not good for us. We need to stop and purse-lip breathing and pacing ourselves. So one of the good things is that we have a stool in the kitchen so that anytime that we need to rest, we can rest. And then we can be rejuvenated to keep going on the meal. Otherwise, it's abandoned and we can't get it done. Using things like parchment paper and, hi Barbara, using things like parchment paper and foil to line our pans is an excellent idea. And I say that because it really eliminates the cleanup, right? So although my daughter used to cook for us and she did a really fabulous job, she was not much on the cleanup. And cleanup could take, an hour or two because the way she cooked and everything, like every pot had to be used in the kitchen, right? So the way you line your pans can be crucial to getting that cleanup done as quickly as possible, right? Having freezer bags and proper labels is really, really important because anytime that we put something in the freezer, we should always try to be using it within 30 to 60 days. And so anything that we do, that if you're going to be batch cooking, anything that you do use should be labeled properly before it's put into the freezer and put into proper freezer bags. Because if it's freezer burn, it's actually no good. Does anybody use paper plates and paper cups and plastic utensils on days when they really don't feel like doing the cleanup or when you're having a crowd? Does anybody think of stocking their kitchen with paper plates and paper napkins and stuff like that, right? That's a great tip, Elaine. Only doing dishes once a day. It's tough when you don't have a dishwasher, right? Because there's no place to hide them. But doing the dishes once a day is a really good idea because if you can stand them kind of piling up on the side of the sink, I can be after the dishes like 10,000 times and I still have a dishwasher, but I'm still doing 2 or 3 loads of dishes in the sink for some reason. I don't know why that happens. And sometimes what happens is the dishwasher gets too full and you still have dishes that have to go in. And so I sometimes do them. I hate washing dishes, but you know what? It's really good for arthritic hands. It's really good to get your hands and everything moving, eh? So, nobody uses paper plates. I can't believe it. I use paper plates and paper napkins and plastic utensils whenever I don't feel good and I don't have the energy to clean up, even though there's other people in the house. It gives everybody a break, right? And I don't have a double sink anymore. I really miss my double sink, right? We took the double sink out to give us a bit of more room on the countertop because we needed that room on the countertop. So, I really miss that, right? Did you know that your slow cookers could be lined too? There's actual liners for your slow cooker. So you can just take stuff out of the slow cooker and it doesn't stick. It doesn't bother me. I don't use them. But I was surprised to hear that they were there. Something else that's really cool, and I've actually never seen this, but I think that Amazon would have this. A divided skillet. How cool is that? You can cook meat on one side and vegetables on the other side, stir fry your vegetables and everything, right? And you've only dirtied one pan. I think they're absolutely fabulous. I've never seen them, but I saw it on Pinterest the other day. So a couple of things to think about for your kitchen tips and tricks. And you don't even have to be chronically ill. You just have to chronically hate being in the kitchen. And I absolutely do not like it at all. I would pay somebody to cook my meals every day, which isn't a bad idea. And I don't know if they have them everywhere, but in Canada, there's quite a few. Hi, Wendy. There's quite a few places that will deliver groceries for you or deliver menus for you. So we have something called Fresh in Canada. And in the States, it's a little bit different. In England, it's a bit different. In Australia, but I think everybody's kind of jumping on the bandwagon here, right? First of all, I order my groceries online. So on Sunday night, I will open a grocery order. And as I'm running out of things throughout the week, things that we need and we need replenished throughout the week, I have a grocery order open and I add to it all week. The second thing I do is I order my groceries depending on a menu. So I sit down with my husband, I say, okay, what do you think you're going to feel like making next week? Or what do you think you're going to feel like eating next week? And we go through a bit of a menu, say, we haven't had this for a while. And then we're right there in the kitchen and we can check what ingredients we need. Doing your grocery shopping this way eliminates a lot of those last minute runs to the store. And the reason why you have to eliminate that is because that induces a lot of impulse buying. How many times do you go to the store and only get what you went for? Most of us are triggered with impulse buys every time we go to the store. And that's why the store wants us in there more often, right? So I order my groceries online and I order from a menu. And then I take that menu that we've listed and I put it on the cork board so that we remember what we bought and what we were going to make and stuff like that, because we don't have a lot of extra money for groceries anymore. And I just hate to cook and I hate being out of stuff. And then if I go to make something and I don't have the ingredients, I just go to hell with it. I'll just order something tonight, right? Because I'm still back in those days when I used to work and order stuff. Having the proper utensils in the kitchen is extremely important. So having a good set of knives. Does anybody use a special set of knives just for cooking? Like I'm not talking about the steak knives, but I'm talking about a special, really sharp knives, right? My husband and I bought a package of a set of really, really sharp knives, and they're just for cooking. And cutting meat up and everything is absolutely a dream with it. I was struggling with the knives that we had. One of the reasons was because they're probably 20 years old. They have never been sharpened properly, and my hands just won't do it anymore, right? Yeah, and so some people are saying that they like to go and get the sales and stuff like that. So if you like to follow the sales, you're usually following 2 or 3 different stores. And if you're able to do that, that's actually excellent. And because the reason why is because it keeps you moving, right? So we keep getting moving. So having the proper tools, the proper frying pans, the proper cutting utensils, knives, cutting boards, things like that. There's cutting boards, like all kinds of cutting boards where you can have all of the excess and all of the overflow go right into the side of it, and then it goes right into the recycle. We recycle in our province. We recycle almost everything can be recycled. So we have food, green bins, and paper and plastic, and everything is recycled here, right? So it's excellent, right? So I'm looking forward to hearing what your tips and tricks are. What kind of tips and tricks does everybody else have? And what about when you're ordering your foods, or when you're going to the grocery store and that? Does anybody just pick up a fruit tray and a vegetable tray rather than going through all of the chopping and everything of getting fresh vegetables? Something to think about. You know, it's right up there with paper plates and plastic utensils. But if that's the way that you can do it, right? So, my call to action this week is, my contest is going to be this weekend, right? We're drawing for the contest. Can you believe it? It is May 28th, and it's May 28th, and I cannot believe that May is almost gone. Like, here it is, it's almost over with, right? My contest will be this weekend, and I will be putting the winners on my blog next week. And the only way that you can be involved and sign up for all of the fun and the giveaways is through my blog at catchyourbreath60.com. If you haven't signed up yet, please sign up. I have over 435 followers here on Facebook, but I only have 170 people that are signed up. So if you haven't signed up yet, get your butt over to catchyourbreath60.com and sign up for my 2nd anniversary contest. We will be giving away a couple of mugs like this one. Not this one though, this is mine. So I have 2 of those to give away. I have a custom sketch that was done by a local artist. I have some jewelry to give away, and I also have a journal and a pen to give away. So big giveaways happening, and it's going to be this Saturday. So I'm hoping that you will get your butt over to catchyourbreath60.com and sign up for my Facebook, or sign up for my 2nd anniversary contest. Please follow me on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and don't forget my blog at catchyourbreath60.com. We will be later this afternoon putting all of these videos from Tea Time Tuesday on YouTube so that we can get some broader views on it. So I want to thank everybody for joining me at Tea Time Tuesday. I absolutely love the dialogue. I love answering and listening to your comments. Please, please, please leave me lots of comments because I'm dying to hear what you have to say. Everything that you say on Tea Time Tuesday will be in the comments, and they will help other people, because what happens is that we don't have a lot of people come on live. But after, we have about 300 people that go through the videos after, and they have a listen to them, and they're talking about, and they get in touch with me, and they say, oh, I love this segment, and I love what this person had to say, and this was such a good tip and trick, and so forth. So lots and lots of people are looking at it, and probably I have over 300 views every week that we're on here. So please continue to put your comments in there. I absolutely love all the comments. I try to answer all the comments. Sometimes Facebook doesn't like me when I'm answering all the comments, and sometimes they don't show up, and I don't know why. And I don't really want to personal message people, but that might be what I have to do in the future, right? Please do consider next week's topics and tell me what you would like to hear about next week's topics. I'm open to all topics, and we can talk about anything. Last week we talked about bathroom talk, and today we're talking about kitchen talk. So do spread the word on COPD. Remember that COPD is one of the largest killers in North America. We're so in other parts of the world as well. So I'm looking for information on COPD. Let me know what you would like to hear for next week's Tea Time Tuesday. And all of the winners will be broadcast on Tea Times Tuesday. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Catch Your Breath 60 blog. That's it for today. Thank you for joining me for tea time. I thoroughly enjoy this, and I look forward to it every single week. Barbara Moore signing off for Catch Your Breath.